Welcome back to Let the Journey Begin. I am your host, Hilary Roberts, alongside my co-host, the beautiful Jaana Woodbury.
Hi, guys.
She is on our board, and she is amazing. She works with RSF. And hey, girl, how are all the babies doing?
They're good. All 4 of them.
I just can't wait. So one of the things I was going to call you about was that I wanted to come over and
meet them.
I want to meet them and hang with them.
You should.
And check
bring
all
your
that.
puppies.
Yeah, I have my one puppy, Petey, with me right now. So, yeah. Yeah, so they're good. All is well with you?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I'm excited for the summertime.
Girl.
It's coming up.
I'm telling you, Dallas this winter, we had a couple of frozen times. Thank God the power didn't go out this year, but it was pretty crazy.
Texas can't handle the cold.
They can't. They can't. They can handle spurs and cowboy boots and big 10-gallon hats, but they can't handle the burr. Yeah, well, I still love Texas. It saved my life. Anyway, I'm just so excited about Women's History Month and getting to do this with you today. And I know that you have invited an incredible guest for us. And I'm just looking so forward to hearing all that she has to say. So
absolutely. Yeah. So we have Sue Bright with us today. And I've known Sue about 4 years now. And when I think of just a strong woman in the behavioral health field, I think of you. When I think of a strong woman just representing recovery and what that entails, like balance, having a strong faith, working a strong program, I think of you. So I'm excited to have you just on during Women's History Month. It's March. So welcome.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Pleased to be here. Thanks, Hilary.
So welcome, Sue. So in your words, what got you interested just in the behavioral health field?
So initially, my husband had gone through treatment and was working a recovery program himself. I had been in a different recovery program for about 3 years prior to that. And I had what people would refer to as an emotional bottom. The bottom kind of fell out for me during that period of time. And for one of the first times, I had a business opportunity, and I went to this treatment center to pick up a check for an auto repair. And somebody asked me that fatal question, which was, how are you? And I just completely fell apart. And it was the first time that I actually allowed those walls to come down and to let somebody know how much I was truly struggling. And that began my recovery journey in a whole different way. It's interesting when you can be that gut level honest, the opportunities that will fall out of that you were never expecting or anticipating. And, the foundation that has built my recovery on.
Wow. And so you were sober at that point?
I was not.
Oh, okay.
I was not.
All right. So concerning that, so can you talk about your own struggle with alcoholism, addiction?
I can. So both my husband and I were active addicts, alcoholics. And it was clear to me that he had a problem and he needed to do something about that. And I was doing something about that. I was learning how to deal with what he was doing in a whole different way. And suddenly somebody said to me, you're right. He does have a problem with drugs and alcohol and he's doing what he's doing. But what about you? Mm-hmm. And I was like, what do you mean? What about me? And they're like, well, what about you? I had filled out a questionnaire and it was the first time I was ever completely honest about my substance use.
Wow.
And I was also not aware that the first substance I ever picked up was alcohol and the last substance that I ever put down was alcohol. There was a lot of stuff in between and it wasn't my choice that it happened that way, but that is my story. That's exactly what happened. And from that moment on, I was told, jump in the middle, get into service, do things that will enhance and support your recovery in a way that you may not understand now, but years down the road you will. And I thought, they're crazy. They have no idea what they're talking about. Come to find out, they knew exactly what they were talking about. they would say things to me like, why don't you let us love you until you can love yourself, and hugs. And I was like, oh gosh, please don't hug me. I was afraid. I felt like Humpty Dumpty, that if they cracked that shell, I was going to fall apart and I wasn't going to be able to be put back together again emotionally, spiritually, or physically. And what I found out was that cracking is actually what was able to put me back together again in a way that was far better than I had ever dreamed of. I tell people all the time, if I had gotten what I wanted when I wanted, I would have cheated myself out of so many wonderful opportunities along the way.
So that's beautiful. And what drove you off course? How did your addiction start, and how did you get to that place of just like
desperation,
yeah,
brokenness?
So initially it was just that casual drink, it was wanting to fit in with the other kids at school and wanting to be a part of.
How old were you?
I was in 7th or 8th grade at that point. And just not feeling a part of, the first time I drank was at a school dance, and suddenly I could dance, and suddenly I could feel like all those inhibitions were gone. And it was the first time I had ever experienced that. I got deathly sick because I believe from the very first time I drank alcoholically. It wasn't a little bit just to get a buzz. It was full on. and it continued that way all the way until the last drink. I would be that person that would be in the bar, and I would go in and I would drink fast and I would drink hard. I would tell everybody I needed to go outside and get some fresh air. And literally what that meant was I was going to go outside and I was going to throw my guts up, and then I was going to come back in and drink again. And I drank with people that were older than I was as I was growing up. And what I've come to learn is I did that because people that were my age weren't doing the things that I was doing. They weren't drinking the way that I was drinking, but the people that were a little bit older were past that. They didn't have school responsibility. I was a straight A student until my senior year of high school, and then I missed more school. I graduated, but I missed more school in my senior year than I had probably missed the entire 12 years prior.
Wow.
So it was, it was certainly a little bit of an eye-opener, but things didn't really take off until after I was out of the house, which happened pretty quickly. I graduated high school and fell in love, took a hostage.
Like we do.
Took a hostage, got pregnant, and had my first son, who is now 42 years old.
Wow.
And he...
How old were you?
She was 12.
I was 12, yeah.
She was 12.
I was 17 when I got pregnant.
Wow.
Babies having babies, right?
Yes.
Didn't have a clue of like what all that was and what was going to lead there, and had another about a year and a half later. And that marriage broke up as a direct result of drugs and alcohol. There's, my husband was working a second shift job. He would go to work and he would come home at 12:30, 1 o'clock in the morning. And there was a party happening in his home every night that he came home. And I couldn't understand why he was upset about that. He had a clean home and there was dinner cooked and the kids were taken care of. What was the problem with that?
Wow.
And so that marriage ended up...
How old were you when it ended?
Splitting up. I was 21.
Wow.
So it happened pretty fast.
Wow.
Very fast, actually. And
so on that, it's so interesting because I felt like I grew up fast because of living on the street at different times. But you grew up fast by doing the family unit and doing marriage and then divorce so young. And marriage and babies and divorce. It's just wild to hear. Sorry, go ahead.
Right. And it happened so, I didn't even realize how quickly it was happening when it happened. I ended up meeting my husband that I'm married to now. He and his brother helped my sister. My sister and I decided we were going to get a place together. And she was dating a gentleman. I started dating the gentleman's brother. They helped us move out of that home into an apartment, and they never left. And I talk about this now, and it's hard to believe like that was my life, but that was exactly what it was, and it was one big party when my children went to be with their dad on the weekend, every other weekend. Then there was no holds barred. And my alcoholism quickly, rapidly took off. And I didn't have to worry about anybody or anything during that time. And I was free to do what I want, when I wanted, how I wanted. And it only lasted within the next 6 years is when everything turned around and everything changed. We ended up with a third child. And he was only about 4 years old when my husband and I got sober.
Wow.
Grateful today to know that my children were young enough that there was a Christmas not that long ago where we were just sitting around and talking and how life has changed over the years. And one of the greatest gifts I've received was one of my children saying to me, like, I hardly remember what that was like.
Wow.
What a gift.
Yeah, no, that's great. I loved how you shared that. So at what point, or did you even have a moment of clarity? I know I didn't. I had to have several moments of just being broken. But did you have that one moment of clarity?
I did not. It was a lot of little occurrences that happened along the way where little by little, I believe that the blindfold was taken off, where I could see clearly, oh yeah, me too. Because I went in and listened to people and I'm like, well, I didn't do that. I didn't eat out of a dumpster and I didn't have a DUI and I didn't this and I didn't that. Mm-hmm. And somebody said to me, look for the similarities and not the differences. And when I started to do that, there kind of was a moment of clarity. I was sitting in a meeting and somebody had shared their story and it was as if they were sharing my story for the first time. And I remember hearing along the way, if it waddles like a duck and it quacks like a duck, it's probably a duck, right? And funny enough, I can tell you exactly what I was wearing that day. I had on a pair of red shorts and I had on a white top that had ducks all over it. And I was like,
what are the odds?
I kid you not. And I was like, oh my God, I'm a duck. And thank goodness, though, up until that point, I did what they asked me to do. I was afraid not to. I didn't want to go back. And I'm grateful to say that I've never had a drink or a drug since that day. And wow. I believe that's God's grace.
That's a gift, because oftentimes we can have those moments of clarity or that aha moment, but it's not enough, right? When we think of addiction, you have the consequence, but it's not enough, right? We easily forget.
Right. I had a conversation with someone yesterday where we were talking about somebody had gone into an emergency room and was sharing how awfully they were treated. And my heart was just breaking. And I had two separate thoughts in that. I know that as active alcoholics and addicts, we can be some of the most difficult patients in an emergency room. Mm-hmm. We won't listen. We won't do what they want. Somebody comes in the morning and has overdosed and they Narcan them and they bring them back to life and they leave and 6 hours later, they're back in the same condition.
Again.
I understand that from the medical professional standpoint, and yet it breaks my heart that anybody would be treated with anything less than dignity and respect. This is a disease. And, so often people are made to feel embarrassed and ashamed.
Shameful.
Yeah, it's horrible, how people are treated in this space.
Right.
Yeah.
It makes them not want to reach out for help.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And sometimes it's multiple attempts. And who knows which time is going to be that time.
The time that saves their life.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
So in introducing you, I shared that I look up to just how you work your recovery program. You're consistent just in the things you share online, just with being inspirational. How do you maintain that? It's been, 34 years now?
32.
32.
Mm-hmm. 32.
It's a long time still.
32, 34, 1 million.
Crazy.
But to get that, there's something that has to be consistent. So what has that been? for you?
So the entire time it was an attendance at meetings, regular attendance at meetings. It was working a program of recovery with somebody that was a spiritual advisor to me, someone that could guide me and share their experience, allow me to make my own decisions and my own mistakes, and then be there to pick me up when I fell down. It was an opportunity to see how much different it is for men and women in this space. You know, we become addicted differently, we recover differently, and having a strong group of women that were positive, because if I'm around negative, I can become negative very quickly. So I try to surround myself with people that are positive and are making good, healthy choices for themselves in all areas of their life, so that I have that support around me when, you know, they say you can fall off the beam. And if I start to wander left or right, there's somebody there that will tell me the truth, the ugly truth, you know, that I need to hear. And none of us like to hear that, you know.
And that's a good point. And I want to touch on that just with women in recovery. Have you found, even just being in the behavioral health field for so long, that when it comes to treating women, is it different than treating men? And do you see women more successful just being in an all women's treatment environment versus a co-ed environment?
There's no question in that space. So I worked for 26 years in a co-ed treatment facility, and our CEO at the time, I would get really excited when our female census would surge. And what that would mean is typically it's 3 to 4 men to 1 woman in a treatment center. And like when we would be 50-50, I would be so excited. And he would look at me like I had 3 heads. And I'd say to him, he'd be like, I don't get it. And I said, and you never will. You never will, because you're not a woman in this space. And, you know, we struggle asking for help. We're supposed to be the ones that are the nurturers. We're supposed to be the ones that are helping other people. And I would see women leave treatment prematurely. They would leave treatment because of the demands of the family at home. And men didn't seem to do that. You know, even if they were out of work and they were the breadwinners, somebody would say it's just money and you can make that up. But we're talking about children's lives, and we're talking about a family unit. And I've often heard that if you can heal a woman, you can heal generations. And I believe that to be true. You not only heal the current generation, but you heal the prior generation, you know, through the amends process.
Yeah.
You know, you can heal those relationships, and you heal future generations, because they don't have to live in that same chaos that, you know, we did. I did not grow up in an alcoholic home. So it was a little bit different, but there was plenty of dysfunction, you know, and I learned where the genealogy and where the alcoholism was in my family later. But coming and working in a woman's treatment program was so different for me. And I learned so much more about trauma. And the best definition that I can give of trauma is anything less than nurturing.
Come on.
And I learned that from a friend.
Preach, girl.
Yeah.
That's the truth.
That's exactly what my therapist, Janice, who's been on our show, Janice Gant, and she's that exact thing. That's so beautiful.
Because, you know, everybody can pick out those really horrific things that happen, but not everybody has that experience.
Right.
And so the broader that we make that, the more inviting and more opportunity there is for people to come in. Women get addicted differently. You know, it's called telescoping. And, you know, what ends up happening is our body makeup, we become addicted faster.
Yeah.
And then it's harder for us to rid ourselves of the toxins of the substances we're using just because of our physical body makeup and chemistry. So it's different for men and women. And I find that men being sober, like not just putting down the drink is good for them. Like, hey, I'm not drinking. Like, what more do you want? You know? Yeah. I find women are seeking more of a spiritual connection. They're seeking more emotional recovery.
Healing.
Healing. They want to heal that. They want to feel whole. And there's just a lot of differences in that space. I could talk about that for hours.
I love it.
that.
Yeah, I just absolutely love it. So most recently, you have worked with a facility, New Directions, where they help women and their children, and which is just incredible. And so I want to hear your perspective on that, but I also want to hear your perspective, Jaana, because you went through there, and I believe you had a young one, but you want to tell people, and then she could tell more about her perspective.
Yeah. So actually, that's why I've been in California, was coming out here for aftercare. And so after they threw me in the woods for 60 days to get well, they said, go to California. But yeah, I came to California to a facility where you can have your child, which is what I needed. So Celia, my oldest, was 2 at the time. And I remember making the phone call when I was in the woods at the other facility.
Yeah.
And I had a very short list of places that I could call. And I asked my therapist, well, why is that? And she said, usually at this point, a mother has lost her child. There's not a lot of places that take women with children, right? And so you're already looking at women taking the back seat, in a sense, in terms of getting help, because they're the last ones that leave the unit to go get help. And then when they do leave, their head is somewhere else. As a mother, our hearts are always somewhere else. And so I had that short list. I made the phone call, and I spoke to Otis Johnson. I don't know if you've met Otis. You need to meet Otis. He's going to do some work for us.
Yeah, I want to meet him.
Yeah.
I want to meet him.
Great guy.
So he was my admissions counselor, and I came out here. And so I was there for 6 months.
Wow.
Got pregnant while I was there. But it
By
was
her
a blessing.
husband. People.
Exactly.
Conjugal
Yes.
visit.
Conjugal.
Well, they actually, so interesting. Part of my process in getting well was looking at the fact that, yes, I was a mother, but I also was a wife. And, having that dysfunctional, stuff happening in my marriage, they told me, don't make any decisions for the first year. Don't leave. Don't necessarily stay. You just need to focus and work on yourself. And so they said, but you can have date night. And
we see that you did. Yeah.
But that was a part of it. And that was weird, even just going on date nights, right? Sober for the first time and having to rebuild the family system. And then I would go home for the night, and meet up with Celia again. So it was a facility that really allowed me this space and normalized. Yes, you are a mother. Yes, you are in treatment. Yes, you are pregnant and have your child, but it's okay. People have gotten well. You can too. So,
And you're the living proof.
and I'm the living proof and a part of that generational healing. So I have 4 daughters now.
Oh, wow.
Right? And 3
Yeah.
of which have never seen me use, and they don't know what that life was like.
I love it. I absolutely love it. So we kind of touched on the fact that women thrive better in just a women's only facility. So women, not only were you at a facility that was women only, but with their children, tell us how they thrived and what the differences that you saw with having that type of treatment.
It's an incredible experience. First of all, every woman that walked onto the campus was received with love and compassion and no judgment. If you're 9 months pregnant and you've been using substances, we love you just as much as somebody who came in and had been sober for a little bit of time and needed some extra support. It was a level playing field. And allowing women to come on and bring their children with them gave them an opportunity to heal together. I cannot put into words what it is like when you watch a woman and her child come in and their relationship is fractured. It's clear. It's clear in the body language. It's clear in the verbal communication. It's fractured. And to watch them work together and for the child to be able to go to daycare while mom is in treatment and, learn a little bit about what's happening with mom. But mom's very accessible during the day if they need her to be. And they heal together. And to watch them start to have a healthy relationship, have regular conversations, pray together, meditate together, have the opportunity to learn how to handle. Nobody ever taught me how to handle stress in my life, but when there's a stressful situation, to pause, to not react to what's happening, to be able to have, Jaana talked about not making a major decision for that first year. When in those moments of doubt, just pause and find healthy coping skills that they can work together, and their relationships they just thrive. You see not only mom, because oftentimes the child has been parentified. They've been taking care of mom.
Right.
If mom was, in the bathroom vomiting, they're the one holding mom's hair while mom's being sick, or they're the ones making excuses for their mom when she's not feeling well. And we want children to be able to be children.
Yeah.
To play, to have fun, to interact with other kids, go to school, do all the things that, normal children would be able to do. And to watch all of that happen in front of your eyes, and to see the child run to their mom and want to be with their mom, and make no mistake about it, they get plenty of spoiled while they're there, because they have lots of aunties and lots of grandmas that are around and, loving on them and comforting them. A new mom who comes and brings her baby has people to help her through that process that have been there and can share their experience, strength, and hope with her.
Wow.
It's beautiful to watch. The very first time I walked onto the campus, I stood there and I had an emotional reaction that I couldn't put into words then. Today, what I know is that I was witness to women healing from trauma, deep-seated trauma, and beginning to take their life back and heal in a way that, to me, is miraculous every single day.
Oh my gosh, that is just so beautiful. That is so beautiful. I love how you've helped so many people. What a beautiful honor, aside from having your recovery program. That's lovely. So what is your next move?
Well, quite honestly, I've just been taking a nice deep breath and exhaling. The past 2 years with the pandemic, none of us could have anticipated what that was going to look like, or what it was going to look like as, an executive director of a treatment center. The weight of that was pretty heavy, feeling the responsibility of the organization, of the patients, but the staff as well. Having that responsibility every day. I'm asking them to come to work and be responsible to the patients that we're serving, while we were all in fear of what is this and what's happening and what's going on.
Yeah.
And, I have a big God, and I trust in that God today.
Yeah.
That I share all the time. If I had gotten what I wanted, I would have cheated myself out of many opportunities. And I believe that I will be directed on what those next steps are going to be.
Yeah.
I just have to be patient, and I have to be willing to see them. And I am.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Amazing. So we love having you. And something that we do is have our guests come up with an action for the day. So what would your action for the day be?
Something I heard very early on, which is to get on your knees. It'll help you to walk straighter.
Wow.
Oh. I needed to hear that. Dang, sometimes I've been walking crooked, Straighten it out,
I'm
baby.
crawling, sister.
Yeah.
There's days I'm crawling.
Oh, yeah. Or there's just days I'm laying in the path going, no. No, just kidding. It's just been a lovely having you here. And wow, what an honor.
Yeah.
What an honor to meet you.
I'm honored. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you for sharing your story with us.
What is the best way people can find you at social media, or if they want to reach out?
So I'm on both LinkedIn and Facebook, and you can find me under Sue Bright, Bright. Real easy. And every day I post, I like to post something that's inspirational and real. And
Every day, you're consistent with
every
it.
day.
That's what I was saying. You're
consistent.
inspiring.
I am consistent. Yeah. Like to start my day out that way in a positive focus.
Happy March, everybody, and we love you.